Dear chess friends, welcome to my YouTube channel and the second video of today. In this video, I would like to present you another interesting idea in the openings. I would call it another surprising weapon. I call it unofficially Richard Rapport variation. I don't think this player needs any introduction. He's an elite player with very interesting style. As far as I understand, he's from Hungary, but officially is going to represent Romania in future Olympiads. Very interesting to see his games with his uncompromising style, beautiful chess, very inspirational player. I mean, very original at this highest level. Not very classical chess, but it's really not nice to see his games for the diversity of like very unusual ideas, right? So he has been playing one specific line and against e4 e5, and I felt like, well, let's take a look. Maybe it might be interesting. So what is happening here after e4 e5, knight f3, knight c6? Well, everyone is tired now. There is this Rui Lopez, right, with like a bunch of options for black. Nowadays, Giocopiano / Italian. I mean, so much theory, like literally every day we have new games, new theoretical developments. On my webpage, you can find a lot of information about these openings, especially Italian, like two options for black, not covering mainstream lines. So it's getting very exhausted to follow and to study. It's really heavy theory. How about playing something like somewhat a sideline, but at the same time keeping very complicated position? Of course, we are familiar with some, unusual line, Panziani, King's Gambit, but I'm afraid it's just one good line for black, and it's not so much room for improvements, and it's not gonna take us for too many games, right? If somebody knows the theory well for black. Now, he started to play, I noticed Richard started to play g3 in this position. And there is, by the way, g3 in different versions here, like sometimes the most well-known probably when you play knight c3 with the first move, knight f6, and then you play g3, so-called like Vienna version of this, then this one, and also the one which exists basically with 4 knights and g3. So those variations are pretty much well established, and there is a very concrete, well-established existing theory here, and black is doing, of course, very well. Now, this one is still fresh. And I find this quite interesting. So there is definitely like some nuances. We don't have knight on c3, so we can take advantage of this and have pawn on c3 and have knight on d2, similar to Italian positions. And well, by the way, first I would like to mention that this variation drew my attention only when I saw the games of Richard Rapport, because, well, he's well-known elite player nowadays. Now, I noticed that the player who played this before on basically regular basis is Russian Grandmaster Vadim Zvagintsev. It's the player of my generation. He's actually 2 years older than me. We competed even like back in, I remember, early 90s in Soviet Union together. At some point he arrived, I think, I'm not sure whether he crossed 2700, but he was around 2700 player for many years in 2000, like beginning of 2000, and very special, very original player. Like just maybe, guys, like if you are not familiar with his name, you definitely should be familiar with this like original move, e4 c5, knight a3 second move. That's actually his variation. So I found a lot of games that he played, but it's definitely not really got popular. I think now more and more games we're gonna see. Well, if you open database, you can see Magnus games, Nepo played already, Polish Grandmaster, Super Grandmaster Duda. So we have a bunch of top level guys playing this line already, and it seems to me very playable. So here what you can find. So first of all, knight f6, of course, it's a main line. I would like to mention, I actually covered here 6 different moves. So knight f6 and 5 other moves. f5, it's rather suspicious. We just accept the pawn and it's not enough compensation. Now, in case of d6, we strike right away with d4. Now, if black takes, it's in my opinion, favorable pawn structure and so on. So some lines with bishop g4, you'll find this coverage. Now g6 setup, if black is trying to copy white setup, following with fianchetto, we have d4. We have d4, it's very important, ed4, knight d4, this type of position. It seems to me it's a little bit resembles some kind of like Pirc positions, but in my opinion it's a better version, and I believe white has all the chances here for some advantage in the opening. Now, well, by the way, I would like to mention that bishop c5, there are a couple of lines with bishop c5 where black is trying either to delay, maybe move knight f6, play d6, knight e7, or maybe just to play somewhere bishop b6. There are some nuances in this position, but overall it's very similar to just main move bishop c5. Finally, I was actually surprised that d5 has been played in quite a few games on the high level, twice by Magnus. Aronian played this, so we have this kind of position, a little bit resembles maybe Scandinavian, queen d6, queen d8, very interesting play. I mean, white is fighting for advantage here, no doubts about this. And finally, the main line, of course, is knight f6, targeting the pawn. I'm pretty sure, like 95%, like if you're gonna play this variation, you will get this move. We play d3. That's very important. As I mentioned, we don't have knight on c3, so we can be more flexible with this knight. c3, knight d2, and so on. And now, three different setups for black. Now, first of all, bishop e7, bishop g2, castle, castle, d6. Well, d5 is probably more interesting, but d6 slightly passive. There is a very nice game of Richard Rapport against Vishy Anand, h3, covering g4. Then later, he even played c4 followed by knight c3 and got some really nice space advantage in this game. So I think it's slightly passive version. Now we have, of course, in all these lines, side lines, and the previous lines that I mentioned with fianchetto, there is d5. So here we have this kind of position, d5, e5, bishop g2, and there are many options, whether it's bishop e7, bishop d6, bishop c5, 5 moves covered in this position. Definitely very challenging line for black. As we know in these e4, e5 lines, if we take like Gioco Piano for instance, d5 is long-term idea, and there are many lines as one of my recent files to deliver d5 as quickly as possible. So very interesting play. So of course it's very much resembles. We just have bishop on g2 instead of bishop on c4, targeting the center, castle, rook e1, d4, and so on. And finally, we have, of course, bishop c5, bishop g2, d6, and now we play c3. So as I mentioned, so that's the point. That's the point of our setup. More flexibility. Knight will go either to d2. This knight will go either to d2 in most of the case, but sometimes to a3. So now I believe it looks like the most logical for black to play a5 and to prevent before. Now another line, castle. So here we can take advantage of this by playing before, a little bit expanding on the queen side, castle. So there is this thematic idea, also well known maybe from Italian, although we have bishop on c4, but sometimes we play bishop b3. So knight d2, knight c4 followed by a4, targeting bishop on b6. Very complicated game, still not so many games. Now, and finally, after a5, castle, castle, rook e1, I expect a lot of developments in this line. So we basically here in this position, we are ready for d4 advanced, thematic advanced in this position, in this kind of pawn structures. There are already a serious amount of games, but I wouldn't say the theory is well established. It still might be a very interesting, surprising weapon against e4, e5. Now, number one idea, you don't want to study too much of heavy theory, whether it's Rui Lopez or Italian Gioco Piano, or maybe even Scotch. And secondly, it can be maybe like just line that you can play for many games. Even though maybe it's not that challenging, but I believe there is no like immediate solution for black that equalizes like it happens in many sidelines with e4, e5, and just if black knows the theory, that's all. There is no play. So here, all pieces on the board. It's complex middle game, and it's all about who knows ideas much better in middle game. So that's my idea. I hope you're gonna like it. I hope you're interested. So for the full file, you can you should go to my webpage askavrukh.com, so I'll put the link in description of this video, and download. As you know, there are 3 levels, the most detailed level and something very easy for maybe like until 1600, so that you can use this file. Now, if you like this kind of videos with interesting opening ideas, please subscribe to my channel, click notification button, and leave some comments. I'll try to react to every comment as if it's possible. And once again, Happy New Year to everyone. Wish you successful 2023, and I'll see you on the next videos. Thank you very much for watching.